stacked. So another question is that why not containers directly run on physical server? Because containers shares the operating system kernel. It will be less secure for multi-tenant cloud. One kernel issue can affect everyone. So cloud needs strong isolation first as a VM. So containers runs on VM. So why not only VMs? Because spinning hundreds of VM is slow, it is heavy and expensive. So containers solve the speed and scale problem but not security. So VMs gives us a machine and container help us to run the application efficiently on machine. So together they both works for security purpose and for speed and scalability. So scaling is like handling more load. As in load means users request and work. So there are two types of scaling, as we know: vertical scaling, scale up. So same application will have same machine but more power. For example, it will have a VM or container will have CPU of 2 or 4 or 8 and RAM of 4 GB, 8 GB and 16 GB. So yes, this means more space, more CPU, more memory. So but the problem it has is this needs restart sometimes and has a limit and it's slow, used mostly with VMs and database. And there is a horizontal scaling, scale out. This means fast scaling, and it means same application but multiple copies running at the same time. So example is like with VMs, application A is running on one VM, second VM and third VM. So same application on multiple machines. So problem with VM is creating each VM takes minutes and it is heavy because each VM has its separate operating system and it is also costly. So as we discussed, containers solve this problem. So it is like same horizontal scaling but much faster. A single VM will have application as in container and it will solve problem application on container 1, container 2, container 3 and on hundreds of container. So why this is fast? So here for container it uses the shared kernel host OS kernel. So there is no new OS, container starts in seconds and it is very lightweight. Okay, so next question is containers scale fast by running multiple instances. So are those instances on one VM or on multiple VMs or directly on physical server or where exactly containers are running? So it can be all of this. A container always runs on an operating system, not on a hypervisor, not directly on hardware. So it's like container runs with help of container runtime Docker and it needs operating system because it uses the host OS shared kernel. So most common real world setup is like in container runs inside a VM. So physical server will have hypervisor for isolation, VM for security and hypervisor at OS level, Docker and as a runtime engine, and containers for scaling and application isolation. So this is the most common production setup which are used by AWS, Azure, GCP, etc. So the when we say container scale fast, it means we quickly start multiple instances of same application as containers. These containers usually run on a virtual machine's operating system at a larger scale. They can be distributed across multiple virtual machines. So, what really happens in AWS if we see the real world example? So, AWS has a physical server, big powerful machine in AWS data center. We cannot see it. Then there is a hypervisor which is managed by AWS, runs on physical server. It creates isolation between customers. So EC2 instance is like a VM. So this is our VM only. It has its own operating system, usually Linux. So physical server has a hypervisor and EC2 instance, which is a VM. Inside EC2, container runtime is there. We install container runtime, for example, Docker or containerd, and our application runs inside this container. Application runs as a container. So now our application runs as one container for low traffic, 5 container for medium traffic, and we can increase it to high 50 container for a higher traffic. So this scaling is possible because of containers. So EC2 is like a VM, which is mostly a Linux. Then there is, we have Docker and we have containers. So this is container based scaling. Application runs inside the containers. Container runs inside the EC2 OS, and EC2 is a VM. So in AWS, applications typically runs on EC2 instances, which are virtual machines created on top of physical servers using hypervisor. Inside an EC2 instance, we run a container runtime like Docker, and the application runs as a multiple containers for scalability. This allows us to combine the strong isolation at the VM level and with the fast scaling at the container level. So to summarize, physical server, it is owned by AWS. Hypervisor is for security and isolation purpose used by AWS, and EC2 is our operating system where we are using container runtime as a Docker or any other containerd, and containers are there for scaling application. So everything below Docker is infrastructure, and everything above Docker is a application. So if you like the video, please do like and subscribe. Thank you.